February 4, 2016. At the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, payment orders begin arriving from Bangladesh. $6 million, then $20 million, $30 million, $25 million. More requests follow. They appear to come from Bangladesh Bank, the central bank of an entire country. And when the fraudulent orders are added together, someone is trying to move roughly $951 million, almost $1 billion. The instructions look authentic. The people behind them are not legitimate bankers. Most of the transfers will fail. A handful will not. And by the time Bangladesh Bank understands what has happened, the heist has already crossed an ocean. Bangladesh Bank kept part of its US dollar reserves at the New York Fed. To move that money, it sent trusted payment instructions through SWIFT. The New York Fed says its systems weren't compromised. Neither was SWIFT's core network. The attackers were inside Bangladesh Bank's environment, making fraudulent instructions look legitimate. But while those orders were reaching New York, something strange was happening thousands of miles away in Dhaka. According to a police complaint later reported by Bloomberg, a Bangladesh bank official arrived on the morning of February 5th and checked the printer that normally produced confirmations of overnight SWIFT transactions. The tray was empty. He tried to print the records manually. That failed too. At first, according to the complaint, it appeared to be an ordinary technical problem. It was not. When the records eventually became available, suspicious transactions appeared. The bank was no longer dealing with a broken printer. It was dealing with a race.
Because while people in Dhaka were discovering that something was wrong, the money was already moving. Official records differ on the exact number of payment orders involved, but they agree on the scale. Roughly 30 dozen fraudulent instructions sought to move close to $1 billion. Most did not succeed. 4 did. Those 4 transfers sent approximately $81 million toward accounts connected to RCBC in the Philippines. $81 million had escaped. Most of the attempted billion-dollar theft had failed, but that was no longer the urgent problem. Now it had to catch the part that got away. And one other transfer had come remarkably close. $20 million was being directed toward Sri Lanka. According to banking officials cited by Reuters, the transfer named the Shalika Foundation, but foundation was reportedly misspelled as Foundation. That anomaly prompted Deutsche Bank, acting as a routing bank, to seek clarification. The transfer was stopped. The typo became the most famous detail in the entire heist. It also created a myth. One spelling mistake did not single-handedly save nearly $1 billion. Other transfers had already failed or drawn questions for separate reasons. The typo stopped one $20 million transfer, but 4 others had already succeeded. So the story changes. The question is no longer, can they stop the heist? It becomes, can they catch the money? The $81 million had reached RCBC-linked accounts in the Philippines. Bangladesh Bank sent stop payment requests to RCBC on February 8th. That day was a public holiday in the Philippines for Chinese New Year. A Philippine Supreme Court decision says RCBC responded on February 9th and placed the remaining proceeds on hold. Just $68,305. Out of $81 million, most of the money had already moved again. That is the nightmare at the center of this story. They had found where the money went, but finding it and freezing it were 2 different things. The funds moved onward from the RCBC accounts. Court records trace the $81 million through additional accounts and into PhilRem, a Philippine remittance company. And from there, much of the trail entered casino and junket-linked channels. The robbery had started as instructions traveling between computers. Now the investigation had entered the real economy, accounts, remittance transactions, casino businesses, money changing form and changing hands. The farther it moved, the harder it became to reverse the original transaction.
Philippine authorities began following the trail. The Anti-Money Laundering Council investigated. The Senate held hearings. Casino junket operator Kim Sin Wong, widely known as Kim Wong, returned funds authorities linked to the stolen money. And slowly, part of the $81 million resurfaced. By late 2016, the Philippine Department of Finance said Bangladesh had received at least $15 million back. That mattered, but the comparison was brutal. Around $81 million had escaped. About $15 million had been returned that year. Stopping the theft took hours. Trying to reverse the successful part would take years. And there was still one unanswered question. Who had planned an operation capable of getting this far? Investigators began working backward. February 4th was the night the money moved. It was not the night the operation began. Later court records describe the intrusion into Bangladesh Bank's network as starting much earlier, with access progressing toward the bank's SWIFT-connected environment before the theft. The 2018 Justice Department complaint alleged that the bank's network had been compromised through spear phishing before the fraudulent SWIFT messages were sent. This had required patience. Get inside, stay there, reach the right systems, wait, then move the money. The FBI investigation looked at far more than Bangladesh Bank. Investigators compared accounts, infrastructure, malicious software, and other technical signatures across different operations. Some of those connections pointed toward another attack that had already made headlines around the world: Sony Pictures.
And that trail led somewhere far stranger than an ordinary criminal gang. In 2018, the U.S. Justice Department unsealed a criminal complaint against North Korean programmer Park Jin-hyuk. The complaint alleged that Park participated in a hacking team sponsored by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Private security researchers had another name for that broader group: Lazarus Group. And according to the Justice Department, the same alleged conspiracy was responsible for stealing the $81 million from Bangladesh Bank. That is an allegation contained in a U.S. criminal complaint, not a conviction establishing every detail of the Bangladesh operation. But it changed the scale of the investigation. The attempted billion-dollar theft was now being linked by U.S. authorities to a state-sponsored campaign whose activity also included the Sony Pictures attack and other financial intrusions. The consequences continued back in Dhaka. Central Bank Governor Atiur Rahman resigned in March 2016 as pressure mounted over the handling of the heist. The fight over the money lasted much longer. Bangladesh Bank later pursued litigation against RCBC and others in New York. And New York court proceedings in Bangladesh Bank versus Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation were still producing decisions in 2026. A theft executed in a matter of hours had produced a recovery battle stretching across a decade. That is what makes this heist so difficult to forget. The attackers tried to move roughly $951 million. Most of it never escaped, but 4 did. About $81 million reached the Philippines. Part of it was recovered. Much of the story that followed became a chase across banks, remittance channels, casinos, investigators, courts, and countries. From Dhaka to New York to Manila, and eventually, according to U.S. authorities, toward North Korea. The thieves never walked into Bangladesh Bank. They never entered the New York Fed. They never stood inside a vault. They did something far stranger. They made the bank ask for its own money to be sent away.